Good morning, and thanks for joining us on Real Investment News for your market open. I'm your host, Scarlett Fakar. Right now, the Dow is up about 5 points, NASDAQ is up 18, and the S&P 500 is up 2. We wanted to focus on one story this morning. A new report actually from MarketWatch suggests that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are in more serious talks about finding an alternative method when it comes to assessing borrowers' credit scores. Granted, it may not change for a few more years, but right now, Fannie and Freddie use credit scores produced by an older product from the Fair Isaac Corporation, commonly known as FICO. According to MarketWatch, housing industry lobbies such as Mortgage Bankers Association, the National Association of Realtors, and the National Association of Home Builders are also pushing for an alternative that would essentially help out low and moderate income as well as minority consumers. Obviously, this is in response to the buyer's market right now, and I'm going to bring in expert Lance Roberts. Come into the screen, step in. So Lance, this sounds really familiar, something that we've seen happen before that didn't really end very well for all of us.
Well, yeah, back in 2007 and really going in 2008, we saw a lot of, lending standards got loosened to a great degree. We saw things like no income, no job loans called ninja loans. We saw all kinds of abilities to take out a mortgage with very little credit capability and an ability to repay a mortgage. Remember, when we loan people money, we're loaning people money for 30 years on average, or 15 years, for a mortgage. So having somebody that's credit worthy and dependent on paying that back is important to banks. But unfortunately, we get into these late stage cycles like we're in now where we want to try to lend out more money because that's how we make income. And so banks start kind of loosening up standards. They become more lenient on who they'll loan money to because, well, they can absorb a few losses. But we've seen how that ends before. And now you're seeing Fannie Mae has already loosened lending standards. We have things like 3% home loans now, 3% down. When you only put 3% down on a mortgage, you don't have a lot of skin in the game, so it's easy to walk away from it. That's why, when we used to have 20% down payments, people stayed in their homes longer because they had a lot of skin in the game. Well, now what we're looking at here is, again, a return to this idea that, well, let's figure out a way that we can use a credit score that will allow more people that really maybe shouldn't own a home yet to get a home. And this is how we keep winding up in these same problems over and over again in terms of getting a lot of bad debt on the books, and delinquencies are already on the rise.
Right, exactly. And that's kind of a warning to homeowners too. I mean, it's going to sound great when and if this does happen, this alternative plan. But I mean, if you can, what's your warning to these guys? Just remember that you've got to pay that money back.
You do it. Well, look, there's two things. First of all, home ownership sounds great, right? We should all own a home. This is kind of what's promulgated. And again, look who's pushing for this, right? The National Realtors Association, the National Home Builders Association, the people directly involved with buying or selling homes, right? They're the ones pushing for these looser standards. But just remember that owning a house is great, but a house is not an asset. It's an expense long term. You've got to pay taxes, you've got to pay upkeep, you've got to pay maintenance, and these things all drag on your budget. So if you're already financially strapped, trying to jump yourself into another big debt just for the sake of owning a home, doesn't necessarily work out that great.
Right, exactly. Well, if you want more videos and more advice like this is just one story that we've got for you with one of our chief financial strategists, the only Lance Roberts. We've got another market report coming up in just a couple of hours. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter, folks. We'll be back soon.